Welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast, bringing you authentic and vulnerable stories that will inspire you to breathe fire on this world and become your own hero. Here's your host, Blaise Hunter.
Hello, welcome to Blaise the Trail podcast. I'm Blaise Hunter, and I am a fertility expert. No, I don't help people get pregnant. This is a different type of expertise. I actually inspire people to birth confidence, self-worth, to birth their books, business ideas, dreams, passions, and goals, as well as help them discover peace amongst infertility. After going through my own sets of traumas and tragedies, dealing with a rare disease, and experiencing 3 miscarriages, I decided to take charge of my life and not let life happen to me, but rather become the hero of my own life. I am not barren. I continually birth my purpose every day. So that's why I've created this show, to demonstrate how even though we all experience setbacks and disappointments, we still have a destiny to birth. We just need to blaze the trail and be expecting. This podcast will inspire you to lean into your hardships and allow them to be the vehicle that transports you into becoming the hero of your life so you can breathe fire on this world. This week's episode is called The Butcher Shop Girl. And some points we'll cover are, we'll chat with a Canadian author who's about to debut her tantalizing book, and it's so amazing to have her on today. We will compare and contrast the parallels of both of our journeys, and we'll peel back the layers of this woman. And I have the fabulous Carmen Kissel-Verrier on the show today. Carmen is the author of the blockbuster memoir, The Butcher Shop Girl. She is a technical writer and a graduate of Mount Royal University. Carmen still loves a wild time spent with peculiar people and appreciates a good ribeye steak. She is the principal owner of Pulp Cottage, a boutique branding agency, and enthusiastically welcomes and supports all newcomers to the corporate landscape. She has recently been nominated for the Women of Influence 2020 award by her local business community peers for many successful branding projects completed for sports teams, NFPs, and businesses. She remains fascinated by the diversity of the human spirit. Carmen lives with her husband and 2 children on the shoreline of Moose Lake, Alberta. She is my friend, and she is such a dear inspiration to me. Welcome, Carmen, to the show.
Hi, Blaise. Thank you so much for having me. Gosh, what an introduction. I don't even know what to say after that. That's just incredible.
You know, it's so amazing to have women and men on my show that really showcase inspiration, resiliency, and just living out their passion. And you are the epitome of that. And, you know, we're both writers. We're both a bit quirky. Like you said on your cover of your book, a memoir for misfits and mavericks. That's what we are to a T. We're misfits and mavericks. We think outside the box. We own our uniqueness. And that really showcases our own beauty. I'm so happy to have you on today.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. We are misfits, we are mavericks, and we love it.
We do. And, you know, we lived in the same town, but we really didn't go in the same circles. So I never knew you for many, many years while we were there in the same community. But then through a mutual friend and a women's conference, we started collaborating. And that's when I was just releasing my book, Heroine. And then we just became instant friends and just really bonded over writing through our passions and purpose and showcasing a little bit behind the scenes, taking off some masks. And you've really become a dear friend. So we've been through this journey together, and now I'm so honored to be in your book journey. So this is just fabulous.
I couldn't think of anybody else to loop into this journey. I'm completely honored to support you, and I'm honored that you are supporting me. We are just such a team that way. And even though you don't live in Bonnyville, Alberta anymore, I certainly feel like you're right next door and miss you so much at the same time.
I know. But thankfully for internet and technology that we can do things like this and really support women in business and women initiatives. And so it's just so awesome. And like when I met you, you were highly involved in your business, Pulp Cottage, which you still are, but you've taken this other path to really develop your writing skills and publish your book. So maybe just take us through that journey a little bit of that backstory of what, prompted you to write your own memoir and write your book.
Yes, great question. I'm frequently asked that often. So a little backstory to you about my professional career as well. I am a published journalist, columnist, essayist. I used to write for oil and gas, energy sector style magazines in Alberta about 10 years ago. And then I also had, a reoccurring style column in our local newspaper as well. So writing has always been important to me. With businesses and marriage and babies, I didn't really have too much time for that. And then I upgraded my education to include a technical writing certificate from Mount Royal University. And that truly just gave me the wings to apply all kinds of different writing. And through that process, about 4 years ago, I as well became a yoga instructor. I fell deep down the rabbit hole with yoga. It was so healing and cathartic, and I just absolutely adored it. And I'm quite a flexible person, so I kind of found that my personal practice was developed easily, and I became pretty competitive with yoga as well as anything that I had ever done before. And I also found that I suppressed my past, as many of us do, but I have a particularly unique coming-of-age journey. And The Butcher Shop Girl, my memoir production for 2020, is a story that remained suppressed for 21 years. And I carried much shame around with me and noticed that the more time that went on, the more that I liked that my story could remain hidden forever. And this brought me great comfort for many, many years while being married and having children and starting businesses. However, I noticed that I remained extremely competitive, largely with myself, and that winning and achieving the next best thing was all that guided and consumed me. It wasn't until, like I said, approximately 4 or 5 years ago, on a mission to achieve my 300-hour Ashtanga yoga instructor certification, which Ashtanga is, one of the most physically demanding yoga practices that you can adopt. It's the pretzel yoga, they call it. And when I started to deep dive into my journey with yoga and heal myself, I started to understand that overachievement is a trauma response. Mm-hmm. And this led to exploration to, you guessed it, right back to the beginning, healing and resolving my past, which was something that I'd long thought I'd accomplished with ego. But yoga definitely strips away those layers of ego, and it gets, if you're truly interested in your practice and developing a sincere yoga practice, let alone to be able to instruct others about that, you need to be real with yourself. So yoga kind of brought me to my past, and through that, I was able to see how my trauma response was. So most women in particular, and you and I have joked about this quite a bit, that everybody has a different response to their upbringing, and it does shape us. Whether we like it or not, it shapes us. And we have to deal with it, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Most women tend to be very introverted or really want to conceal those parts of their lives, and maybe that pushes them down into a lack of self-confidence with how either they don't really know how to take up space in their realms, whether it be sitting in a chair or the room that they're in or the world. So, and some women with trauma responses like myself have the opposite, where we are the jokey pocket of the clown person, maybe laughing on the outside, but maybe hurting on the inside, or overly confident, or just confident, taking up all the space in a room. And that as well is a trauma response. So we all come to that table for different reasons, and we all heal differently, and we all have different reactions to our own trauma responses and healing journeys. So I found it very fascinating, and that ties into my friendship with you. You kind of had the opposite, where you were done with trying to be quiet anymore. You wanted to own your truth. You wanted to own your fabulosity, own your awesome, own your flaws. And then you started to blossom and grow into the Blaise Hunter phenomena that we know now. So for me, it was a bit of a backwards approach from that. I had this persona, I feel as well, that a lot of people in my local communities would think would be, oh, Carmen is very confident. Carmen is very sure of herself. And that's what we know about Carmen. And Carmen can do anything, and Carmen can tackle anything. Carmen has thick skin. All of those things were true, but, you scratch the surface on that, and it's quite a delicate eggshell that was underneath, and I needed to heal that. So another thing that brought me to memoir and why I decided to write about my own unique coming-of-age journey is in 2007, I read Jeanette Wall's The Glass Castle, and I loved it as millions of others have. However, what I found most fascinating with her writing voice was that Walls was able to preserve the integrity of the characters in her life and in her story. Even if you hated those characters or thought them to be vile, she remained unbiased and left it up to the reader to decide for themselves. Another person that inspired me immensely with memoir in that genre is Tara Westover in Educated. She accomplished that same writing voice as well, where she preserved the integrity of her characters in her story and left it up to the reader to decide how they felt about these people. I thought to mimic that writing voice in The Butcher Shop Girl, and I thought that that was the key element that made others fall in love with both of those blockbuster authors' works and their personal memoirs. And another thing that's interesting about memoir is that you kind of have to have two key elements in order to really hang and play in that arena. One is a great story to tell. As unique as it could be is even better. And two, it needs to be true. You need to be real, you need to be vulnerable, you need to be honest, and you need to speak the truth. So I did that on The Butcher Shop Girl. It was incredibly healing. I stripped away all of that vulnerability that I would cling on to and just embraced it and thought, you know what, now it's time to heal. I healed. I have so many neat value offerings to share with others in my story that I spent so much time hiding from everyone, and now it's time to bring it out to the world. And it wasn't, it was a very grueling process. We'll get into that, I'm sure, a little bit later. But when things are right or something's meant to be, it really does align that way. So I wrote The Butcher Shop Girl, started pitching it to various publishers, and then got a deal with Friesen Press Canada, one of Canada's oldest printing and publishing houses. So I couldn't be any more thrilled that things just kind of dominoed from there. And they as well agreed that I had a very ultra unique story to share with the world about resilience and persistence. So that's what led me to write a memoir.
Oh, I love that. And I love your honesty and totally bang on with, just kind of shedding light on different challenges we faced. We've all gone through different things in our life, our childhood. Nothing has been perfect in our lives, and yet we do have different responses to them. And, I'm just so in awe of your journey and learning more about you. And I did get one of the few advanced copies of the manuscript, so I have read it. And oh my goodness, people, you are going to want to read this. It doesn't matter who you are, what age you are, what part of your life you're in, you will relate to it on some level because it triggers different parts and pulls at your heartstrings on different levels. And I know everyone's going to have a different takeaway, and we'll talk about that a little later. But Carmen, I'm so proud of you of just, stepping into that world and letting it be and owning that and healing. And it's just an incredible thing to highlight and have you on today because it's something we need to all echo in our lives. It's just to own it and say, I own it and I'm proud of it. I am who I am because of it. And we should all learn from that. And my story is there for people to learn and heal as well as for me not to hide from my truth. So I just truly honor your journey. So thank you so much.
I really, really appreciate that. I need to share with you and your listenership that you and your book, Heroine, really, truly inspired me to embrace this journey so that I could share it with others. I don't know if I've ever shared that with you. Of course, I'm so proud of you with so many other elements to the business and brand that you've built, but I don't know if you know how much I was inspired by your process and how you've embraced yourself in Heroine. It really, truly, because your book was coming out and I was just then starting to be like, maybe now's the time that I should tackle The Butcher Shop Girl. I had the title and absolutely everything in mind. If it was ever going to happen, I had so many of the elements kind of figured out, and I just kind of created that persona for this memoir and left it on the back counter and was so scared for so long until I ran into you.
So,
I regard myself as a take no prisoners kind of corporate boss babe, but until I met you, I don't know, there's just nobody else could kind of break through that hard shell and show me that it was okay. So thank you. Thank you very much for reading it. Of course, naturally, who you are, how authentic you are. You were the, top 5 people that I needed to field this proof copy to before we got any further. I wanted to know what you thought. I wanted to know how you felt. And I wanted to know what kind of value you thought as well would be there for others. So your endorsement means the world to me.
Oh, well, it's just my honor and my pleasure to, really get to know who you are and all the different things that have happened in your life, what shaped you. And it's been a beautiful thing. Like, it's a gift. And I'll treasure it forever. And, it just makes you see the person behind everything and kind of look at the heart of someone. And that's a good reminder for this world. It's not just what you see, it's behind those layers and understanding behind and what makes a person. And it's not about judgment. And that's something I wanted to ask you, because I had that when I wrote my book. Obviously, it's my life story about self-hatred, about debunking the myths of motherhood, that it's not, so worth it and rosy. It is hard, and we need to talk about the darkness of motherhood, and then my infertility struggles. So I really talked about taboo topics that no one dares speak of, and, I didn't always get a warm welcome with that, because people aren't always prepared for the hard, ugly truth. And you did that in your book. So was it received well with the idea that you're going to show that part of your life? Did you have support and backlash? What was the overall kind of reaction?
Well, so far, like I said, there's only really my publishing group, my publicists, as well as the 5 people that I fielded this memoir to. Of course, they're all people that make me feel comfortable, and I value their academic acumen or life experience to be able to participate and get that pre-read. And all of the commentation that came back was very, very positive and very, oh my gosh, I was just concerned that maybe there would be boring spots. So that's the number one thing I asked you, and I asked all the other participants, are there any boring spots? I was just really, because when you talk about your life, it might be just interesting to you, right?
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that it is interesting to others, and that you're not dropping interest and getting snoozer moments halfway through. So I was really, really concerned about that. And my publisher assured me, no, it's fine. My editors, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. There's one rolling instance into another that just keeps me flipping the pages. And that was kind of the common consensus coming back. So while I was afraid of those things, I was reassured that was fine. Now, feedback was a lot of people in my family too. I have an aunt, her name is Brenda Lee Kissel, and she is a snap-witted writer. She's been a teacher her entire life, English teacher, and she has a degree from the University of Alberta, and she is just so keen. I needed her to read this too, because not only is she a family member, but her academic acumen was really needed and critique. She told me that she wasn't even aware of some of these things and these instances and these happenings in my book. And I, for 21 years felt very thankful for that. I didn't want anybody that I knew or loved or admired to know about these stories. But there's something that happens as, you're not there yet, but I am in my 40s now. And you just kind of don't care. Once you feel like you've healed and you can talk about it without tearing up or without fear, that you just don't care. You let it go. So that's what she picked up on the most, was that you talked about it without exploitation for sensationalism. That was the highest praise I could receive. And I thank her very much for her feedback as well. Feedback was good. It was shocking. People were shocked. They wanted to know more. They liked what they could glean out of the nugget material. So a memoir as well, we should probably discuss and back it up for listeners, is the difference between a memoir and an autobiography or a biography. Is autobiographies and biographies tend to be the whole thing start to finish. You're born on this day, you died on this date, and everything in between, we're going to talk about it. So I mean, you have to be a pretty remarkable person with a remarkable history or past or some sort of celebrity stature to really kind of win at that genre out there with world readers. But memoir is beautiful because it's just a snapshot in time or a snapshot of somebody's life, not the whole story. Maybe it's a snapshot that obviously has the most value to glean for readers that you can turn into a published work. So that's why I love memoir. I really thought that this particular coming of age journey that ends, and the book ends, The Butcher Shop Girl ends when I'm 21 years old, and I say goodbye to my past completely, and I start fresh consciously and willingly. So it's just a snapshot of time, kind of 0 to 21 years, and in there is just an absolute incredible amount of stories and people. The people in my life are what I wanted to showcase more than anything. It's the characters. I can't wait to see what people think about that. So obviously my Aunt Brenda, she as well as in the book as a constant source of unconditional love, and I'm so proud of her for that as well. But she didn't even know some of the things about some of the people in our family's lives. So it was really fascinating. It's revealing, right? And
I know.
Like Tara Westover does in Educated and Jeanette Walls does in The Glass Castle, I leave it up to readers to decide how they feel about the instances and the characters, the wildly colorful characters like, my Uncle Ray, whom we call Porky, who was, the world's biggest hoarder, I'm sure of it. Those types of things when you have that kind of crazy uncle when you're growing up, as well as maybe some of the Hells Angels characters that I describe as well. Those are very formative when you're a young person, 21 years and younger. So I can't wait for readers to dive into that and see what they say.
Yes, you have teased us up a little bit. So let's really dive into the synopsis of your book. What's it about and what are you trying to accomplish with that?
Yes, well, The Butcher Shop Girl is about my unique coming of age journey. It's a story of resilience and persistence where I reveal unusual and little-known worlds to readers. As mentioned, The Glass Castle explores social poverty in America, and Educated explores a quest for higher education amongst community colleges and Ivy League universities. The Butcher Shop Girl journeys through Canadiana and Americana elements and themes with a hit of adventure, as I open with an escape from the clutches of a Bolivian cartel family with the help of the American Embassy. Along the way, readers learn about some fascinating and everyday characters that helped guide me and shape me during my coming of age.
I'm so excited to have people read it because it is fabulous. It's fire. It's truth. You did a very good job of leading us through that story, but allowing us to develop our own opinions and feelings about the characters. So I do appreciate that because there was no judgment in there. It was just sharing the story, and that takes talent to do because sometimes you get a lead from the writer, from the author, and then you take forward with that lead. But this was really left to each person to kind of create their own opinion.
Thank you very much. That's high praise coming from you, and that is absolutely what my primary goal was for The Butcher Shop Girl. If I'm going to be vulnerable enough to open up and share these wild stories from my past, then I need to be real about that, and I need to just leave it up to people to decide for themselves. That was really important to me. Integrity with writing. I mean, you and I talk about that all the time, how important that is, how paramount it is, really. Nobody wants to read fluff pieces anymore. Nobody is interested in fake. And this is where you and I really, really connect, and you inspire me immensely with your produced works as well.
Thank you. And you showcase a part of your life where, you lead in this escape from Bolivia. And so even though you're in your 40s and you're totally owning your truth and you don't care, is there an element of what will my family think? They don't know maybe all the nitty-gritty details? Because I know I haven't written the story yet about my dad. Heroine was about, like you said, a snippet of time that I wanted to talk about my self-hatred, about motherhood and infertility, but I still have another story to tell about my past, and that involves my family. I have talked publicly just this year, I'm 39, and I'm just starting to own that truth, how my dad actually faked his own death due to an extreme depression. So there's still that element because I do have a relationship with my parents still. Yes. How will that be received? I don't want to wreck what we've built and and healed over the years, but I also want to stand in that truth. Like, is there an element of fear or anxiety or just wonderment of how it will be received?
Great question. Absolutely a great question. I feel like I had already mentioned, when you're in your 40s, you kind of feel like you can devil may care. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So that's what ends up happening. But it doesn't mean that I'm impervious or without some shame and regret as well when it comes to maybe how it make others feel. So, for example, my mother is a pivotal character in this book, obviously in my upbringing and many people's upbringings. And we didn't really bond or connect like typical mothers do with their children. So those elements of my story make me uncomfortable. They make readers uncomfortable, and they'll largely make my mom uncomfortable too. However, I want to use that as a conduit to heal our relationship. We actually have a pretty decent relationship. We're not crazy close, but we have a arena of mutual respect that we give each other. Like, my mother is hands down the most impactful, hardworking, spirited, strong woman that I've ever met. Even with all of these strong people that I display in my book, my mother still reigns supreme on that. So I have mad respect for her when it comes to that, and I always will. So really, we talked about this, you and I, last week, about shame. In regards to shame, is that many times we walk around carrying our own shame, and that's our journey to deal with and heal with. But oftentimes, 99% of the time, we're carrying around shame that isn't even ours, or instances that don't even belong to us. However, we were affected by them, and yet we carry this big bucket of shame that really isn't even ours to begin with. So we got to deal with our own shame and regret and make friends with them and let them go. But is there anything more beautiful than handing back a bucket of shame that you've been carrying around that is not even yours?
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So I think once I realized that through this cathartic writing process of memoir, hey, whoa, I can own this, and this, but this, and this isn't even mine. So I'm gonna give that right back to where it comes from, and not begrudgingly or aggressively, just more like, hey, I'm letting this go. This isn't mine. This is yours. Now, whether you want to deal with it or not, that's on you, but I'm not carrying this around for you anymore. So that's kind of largely how I would explain my relationship with my mother, with The Butcher Shop Girl, and this book. She hasn't read it yet. I can't wait for her to read it. I can't wait to see what her takeaway is on it. And we'll just kind of have to, Jesus, take the wheel there a little bit.
Exactly.
Like I can't control how other people are going to respond to this, and I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I want people to tell me what they took away from it, and or whether they hated it, or they loved it, or indifferent. Whatever that is, I want to set the arena space and that safe space for people to just be honest. Because I feel if I can be honest to that degree, then maybe that helps other people with their feedback of my book.
Oh, that's so amazing. And I love having this conversation of just, honesty. And it's not going to be all, I decided to write a book and it's all, roses and rainbows. Like, there's peaks and valleys, and there's different experiences and different feelings associated with it. And I love that we're both authors and writers here. So I wanted to talk more about the parallels of our story and our journey together. Writing this, like, did you find it was a bit scary to write it all down? Was it healing? Right. It is incredibly difficult, people, to write your story. It's not just because you're a great writer, poof, a story comes out. Like, it takes commitment. It takes always reconciling what the message is to how deep you want to go, because you could write something that is perfectly well written, but maybe isn't to the authenticity and that line that you really wanted to get there and reach people's hearts. So how did you feel about that writing journey?
Oh, gosh. Great question again. You were just full of those, girlfriend. Absolutely. I would say that, as you know, and as anybody knows, or even this is a message for the people who have a dream and a book in their heart, but they haven't sat down to do it yet. Maybe they're feeling completely lost. They don't even know where to turn, which often happens, and they just don't even know where to start. So it can be an incredibly daunting process, filled with excitement and motivation, however, stonewalled when you don't know where to actually start. So composition developmental editing is crucial, and everybody has their own process with that. So one thing that evades nobody and no writer is that you have to write not when you feel like it. If you were to write when you felt like it, you would get nothing done. And you can attest to that. I can attest to that. Everybody can say that. Margaret Atwood says that. I think she might even be the one that coined that. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it. But either way, if you write for when you feel like it, you'll never get anything done. So you literally have to make that commitment, decide if you're going to do it or not. Now, you don't have to decide if you're going to publish it. How about you just bite down those steps a little bit to little chunks of, I'm committing to do it. Then once you do that, then you can easily commit to, how am I going to framework my time, my day, my life to fit this in? Maybe that's, maybe you're really alert first thing in the morning. So you just set a timer, no matter what, no matter how, before everybody wakes up in your house, that you sit down and write, 2 paragraphs or for 10 minutes or whatever it is that's your weird process. You get to decide that, but you have to do it. Now, discipline. Everybody talks about that. You can't write when you feel like it. You have to discipline yourself. So make that commitment. If all you can do is 1 time a week, that is your window, then honor that. If it's once a day, if it's twice a day, whatever it is, just set up a routine. Just like anything, going to the gym, your morning coffee habits, any of those things, just fit your writing dream into that structure. So once I started to do that, sometimes I would just sit down and look at a blank piece of paper for 20 minutes and be like, I accomplished nothing today. And you got to let yourself go with that. You got to forgive yourself and just say, you know what? I didn't get anything done today, but at least I suited up and I showed up. Tomorrow it will be different. Then the next day is different. And then pretty soon you've got this great new habit. And sometimes you're super fruitful and productive, and sometimes nothing at all. So I have stared at a blank piece of paper for 10 minutes because maybe my mind wasn't in it that day, but I did suit up and show up. And that's what every author who is successful and who has published a piece of work will say, that you have to find that discipline, you have to find that routine, and you have to figure out what works for you. The next part of that is composition. Then you have to worry about the quality of your writing voice, all of the rhetorical devices. How are you writing academically? Are you writing to talk to you as we are doing right now? Who's your audience? Define them. What is the value that you'd like to give to them? And write to that is another tip, take it or leave it, that I would suggest, and I'm sure you would too. Then after you'll soon notice that once you've been composing a lot, you'll have a bunch of disorganization. This is an inevitable part of the process, and organizing content is its own ballgame. So I remember my girlfriend Kelly, we talk about this in our interview post Butcher Shop Girl as well, as she said, she told our interviewer, I knew that we were going to be at this point where we're talking about the book and it's about to be released when 3 years ago I came to see Carmen in her office, and she is scattered amongst a bunch of cue cards all over her floor for her book. Like literally kitchen recipe cue cards. And I didn't know how to organize this content. So I'm definitely not afraid to say this, but I enlisted the help of a developmental editor from South Carolina named Melinda Kopp, who was absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed working with her, and she kind of added a bit more order and structure to my routine and helped take my themes and organize them properly, because even as a published writer myself and essayist and columnist, those are some of the things that I don't have an English degree, and developmental editing was really way over top of my head. So I found help with that. So that's another part of the process. Seek out help when you need it to keep going on your goal. Otherwise, you'll stop there. So many writers tell us, as you know, I'm at this stage of my book or my process, and I'm done now. I don't know where to turn, don't know where to go. Well, there are people out there. If you don't know how to heal yourself mentally, you would maybe hire a therapist. You don't know how to cut and color your own hair, so you hire a hairdresser. This is no different. So I did enlist the help of a professional to help get me that content organized. And then together, we really brought the story, plot line, organization, and content to the finish. And that was super exciting. It was one of the best things I could have done for the Butcher Shop Girl.
Exactly. And I think that is another parallel with us, because I sought out a mentor on how to write a book, right?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
what you don't know, go ask. It's not shameful to ask for help. Like, because then it ensures that you're going to have a quality product. Because if you don't know, you're just like leading the blind. You don't know where you're going. Like, I want to ask somebody that knows and that's been there and that can help me. I still want to be in the process. I want to do it, but I need to know where to start, where to go, how to get to the finish line. And so that's really important. And that's what I do now I help people put the ideas together, because I've been there, right? Like,
road mapping. People need help with frameworking and road mapping. So just like they come to you for that advice, people come to me at Pulp Cottage for business branding advice, like, oh, how do I structure my company? What kind of lawyers do I need to talk to? What kind of brand representation do I need? So everybody is an SME or a subject matter expert with what they know. Don't be afraid to hang out, enlist, hire those professionals to loop them into your professional projects. And you will always be surprised by the results. On that note, though, I'm sure you would say this too, is that you need to do your research. There are some people that you might think are a good fit, and then you start working together and it's not going so well. Listen to your gut. That means abort and get out of that situation and find a different situation that's going to work. You need to have that creative, juicy flow going with your mentor and your professionals. That's what I would recommend. Listen to your gut instinct. If it's saying, like, this is getting somewhere, I'm really positive about this, this is encouraging and exciting, great, good signs. If not, find something else that works. Don't stop.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, just going back to like the parallels. And I loved how, you wrote your story and you talked about your childhood, but there was no blame. And that's really hard to do, because I've taken a lot of personal growth courses where you had to kind of face people in your life that you've been angered or hurt by, but you needed to express it in a way where there was no blame. And I give you so much credit for that it was just showcasing a story and facts and circumstances, but there was no harsh blame to it. So it didn't feel like it was attacking characters. Like you said, you've left it up to the reader to kind of come up with their own conclusion. And you told it in a way that made me empathize with you, that made me reflect on my own childhood and how certain times my spirit was crushed. And it made me empathize with you so much even more, because it's like, no matter what we've all been through, we all have different backgrounds and stories and childhoods, but we can all have memories of where we were hurt or spirit was crushed, and we can then connect to you and connect with one another, because that's human spirit at its core, right? And it made me just look at my own experiences with my mother, with my father, and maybe like our parents weren't setting out to be bad parents, but because they're battling, like you said, their own demons, their own shame, that it bleeds into their, raising us. And so it made me take a step back and really realize there was no blame there, that they did the best they could. They just wasn't always right, and maybe it wasn't always the best for their children. When you take a step back like that, you're really able to inject empathy even to our parents who made mistakes. And I really value that for you. It made me really appreciate your journey and connect with you, even though we had totally different upbringings.
Yes, I know, and we always joke about that and marvel at it, and it's so true. I think you nailed it really with human spirit and human animal. We also have a mutual friend, Vanessa Lusignan, who has this fantastic program that we've recently launched with her. Pulp Cottage has helped develop this program with Vanessa Lusignan about the hidden language of men. And in it, she talks a great deal about human animal and human spirit. So it's human nature. I would say like a person who has not maybe met themselves very much yet, like a child or a young adult. They're just getting to know themselves. It's natural to blame when something happens to us. This happened to me because this person was out to get me, and oftentimes we come up with the wrong assessment, or we're not mature enough to understand that, hey, this is a snapshot in our parents' life too. There's no guidebook that comes with babies. Here's your baby, here's your make and model, this is your little Carmen, this is how you're going to raise it, and this is what they need. There's none of those things. And then you tack on growing up in the 80s and the 90s. Oh my goodness. Everybody's just doing the best that they could. So the Butcher Shop Girl is by no means, has no room for blame in it. And in fact, I think when you remove that veil of blame and you can meet yourself a little bit at the plate, a little bit with that vulnerability and honesty and truth, that you get to see how beautiful it was, flaws and all. And that's where the premise of your book's messaging comes from too, is that once you embrace it and see it for all it is, the good, the bad, the everything in between, it's actually completely beautiful. And I hope that's what readers glean from the Butcher Shop Girl as well, is that these characters are amazing. You don't really want to judge them. You want to just let them be. You want to know more about them. You want to know maybe what happened to them later. So the Butcher Shop Girl ends when I'm 21 years old. And the number one question I get asked is, what happened to the Butcher Shop Girl? Well, I'm 42 now, so it's 21 years later after the story ends. And, I've lived a full and rich and completely amazing life, thanks to many of the same people in this book and many of the same people, new friends like yourself as well along the way.
Oh, fabulous. And yeah, I know everybody's going to have a different takeaway. My biggest one was seeing that snippet of your life and how your childhood led to one thing, one circumstance, one decision, and then that led to another decision.
Yeah.
And it was really reflecting, we can go through life and we aren't in control of different things that happen to us, but we are in control of some decisions and our reactions. So I feel like sometimes you end up in your life and you're like, how did I get here? And so that was the biggest thing for my takeaway of this book and reading your story, was just being more self-aware and conscious of things that happen in my life and not let them happen to me, but that I am the driver of my life. And to sit there, and you can do it today if you've never done it before, is like, how did I get here? And where do I want to go tomorrow? And how do I get there? And how do I be the driver of my own life? And so that was a very big, pinnacle thing that was always embedded into your whole storyline, was about these decisions. And are they always right? Maybe not. But it got you to where you are today, and you're a beautiful, wonderful person, and we're flawed and awesome. So that was the big thing that I took away. But what do you want? Obviously different type of takeaways, but what is kind of the basis takeaway from this spicy story you're going to release here? What do you want people to get from it?
It would just completely fill my heart with joy if the readership group, which is women that are 16, 17 plus, really this story appeals to that group of 16, 17-year-old young adults, 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings, 50-somethings. So it's women and the performance and entertainment art community, misfit communities, people who have never felt like they've fit in, and couldn't figure out why, no matter how hard they tried to win that approval from society, with themselves, with their families. There's so many different themes explored in this book. Therefore, there's lots of different audiences, but primarily women 16, 17 plus, depending on your maturity level as well, if you're 16, 17. But it's doable. It's digestible. I hope that they can take away that no matter where you are in your life, that things happen to you, and that's okay. Don't remain a victim for long. Don't stay there for too long, because if you do, it's just going to steal from your brighter tomorrow, and it steals from nobody but yourself. So recognizing that victim mentality is crippling and it doesn't allow you to move forward is a big takeaway I hope people grasp from that, and that we are often champions of our own circumstance as well as victims of our own circumstance. And I hope that people take away that this book is written from a young person's perspective. This is what happened to me when I was younger. These are the choices that I made. These are the things that happened to me that I maybe couldn't control. But it's all beautiful. It's all wonderful. And you have to run right up the gut of it to heal and to move on for your brighter tomorrow. And you have to make friends with your shame and your regret. You need to sit with them and invite them to sit at your big girl table. And once you can do that, man, are you ever untouchable. But you feel like it anyway. So it's really, really cathartic. If they can take away that no matter where you are in your life, you do have everything inside of you to change it. And you'll see how the Butcher Shop Girl did that.
Oh, so fabulous. I'm so honored to have this conversation with you. I could talk to you all day about all this
stuff. And we do. We get on the phone and we talk and talk and talk. I love it.
So the big question is, when is this book coming out? How can we get access? What's next for you? What's happening? Like, give us all the deets.
Okay, so exciting. So right now, with my publicity firm, which is Smith Publicity out of New Jersey, so excited to be working with them. They are absolutely elite when it comes to publicity-geared activity for authors and books in particular, all kinds of genres they deal with. So very honored to be working with them, as well as the Friesen Press marketing team as well, also an invaluable resource. We are working super hard to get this book out to all major retail sale points that are common, like, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Chapters Indigo, Friesen Press, as well as my own website as well by November. So we're hoping that it's loaded up onto Ingram, our major global distributor, wholesaler kind of point, by November 15th to the end of November, depending on how long Ingram takes. Then it'll show up on all the major sale platforms. So keep your eye on, November 15th to the 30th to see when we're actually live on all those sale points. I can't even tell you exactly what date that will be yet because we're only in October right now, but it's coming up very quickly. So in the meantime, we've been, producing content for our website, which is going to be thebutchershopgirl.com. And on it, we have pre-order sales so that you can pre-order your copy of The Butcher Shop Girl, and I will personally sign it, and we will fulfill those orders to anybody who orders a pre-order copy of The Butcher Shop Girl on the website. So we definitely are going live with that probably late next week, depending if we get all of our video content back and all the podcasts that we've been doing and the video interviews as well. If we get all of that back, we'll be flipped on live, ready to take pre-sales on the website next week. Yeah, so, keep your eye out for November 15th to the 30th on all those major sale platforms. And then if you sign up to the Butcher Shop Girl newsletter, you will as well know immediately when it is released. So we do encourage everybody to hit the website once it's live, which should be very shortly. As well, we're very excited to announce that we have a Bsg Scholarship. So as many people don't know, in my later life, I'm quite a serial entrepreneur. I'm passionate about business. I'm passionate about capitalism. I'm passionate about women in business in particular. So we've created and designed a gorgeous merchandise line of Butcher Shop Girl goods like hoodies, phone cases, flip-flops, all those really fantastic loungy home essentials that you're going to need, that are beautifully branded with the Butcher Shop Girl insignia. Any of those items purchased, 75% of those proceeds collected will go to support our annual Butcher Shop Girl Scholarship winner, which supports a survivor of domestic violence who wants to start a business. I know how hard it is to find seed capital to start up a business or get your startup off the ground, your fabulous ideas. Sometimes it feels like the banks won't listen to you, friends and family don't care, and you just feel like you have such a great idea and no cash to kind of get it off the ground. So the Bsg Scholarship is for those people. So we want everybody to learn about that as well on our website, and to check out our fabulous merchandising goods as well that come when you pre-order your copy of the book. You will see all this fantastic merch, and you can pop it in your cart and support a wonderful cause. So that's really kind of all the exciting things we've got on the go right now.
That's so exciting. You're truly an inspiration, and just stepping into that, and you're a role model, because, it doesn't matter where you've been or what your story is, you can lean into it and birth your book. And I really encourage anyone that's thinking about that, get in contact with me, with Carmen. We'd love to give you advice or point you in the right direction, just because we want to see women own their story. And this is just so amazing. To recap what we talked about today, we broke down the premise of the Butcher Shop Girl, how to own your story, the power of stepping into your truth. Victim mentality is crippling, so be the champion of your circumstance. Thank you so much, Carmen, for coming on and really showcasing and breaking down your debut book coming out, The Butcher Shop Girl.
Thank you so much, Blaise. I love you infinity.
Oh, this is so amazing. I'll post the links. Get her book when it comes out. It's a fabulous read. I encourage everyone, you can take away something so inspiring from this story. If you want to learn more about my consulting programs, purchase my book, or have me speak at your next event, visit blaisehunter.com. I do have a free offer for everyone. We're in the middle of a pandemic. There's lots of anxiety and overwhelm, but we feel lost in that daily struggle. But what do we do when we normally feel lost when we're driving? We Google Maps that stuff, right? We go to the map. So I have a free map video that guides you through different parts of exercises to get you back to peace and balance in the day when you're feeling anxiety and overwhelm. Feel free to head to my website, free offers tab, download that video for you. Thanks again, Carmen, for coming on the show. That's it for this week's episode. Challenge yourself to be vulnerable, lean into the difficulties, and have those open conversations so we can rise up as the heroes of our lives and let us breathe fire together. If you've enjoyed this show, please subscribe and support Blaise the Trail podcast. Reviews are always welcome and very much appreciated. Thanks for listening. I'm Blaise Hunter.
You've been listening to Blaise the Trail with Blaise Hunter. To learn more about how you can breathe fire and unleash the hero within, or to listen to past episodes, visit blaisehunter.com.